Oh man. Good evening, everybody. It is 7:02 and we will begin. As you may have figured out, I like to get in, get our training done, and then let you go be dads, brothers, fathers, whatever else whatever role you have. Okay. I lost you guys. Tonight, what I would like to do is talk about goal setting and how what we do is related to making our goals happen. And the way that I like to do that is focusing on pregame and preparation. You can see, give me a thumbs up if you can see the title slide. You can just click on the icon.
Yeah, there.
Is this what's that? Yes, or you can say yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Whoops. We're going to go over agenda. We have a welcome, the goal, and then pregame and conferences is our goal tonight. Officials, what I want to do is I want you to practice all the conferences that you have. I think that sometimes some of the conferences are really good, and some of them are like, what in the world are you saying? And the reason that we're doing this is because sometimes we mess up. And that conference is the first opportunity to build our credibility with coaches, players, and tables officials. Let me, in the chat, I am going to link the tonight's survey and what we're doing. So let me do that now.
Dog for the rescue.
What?
I said corn dog for the rescue.
Yeah, dude. Here it is. Okay. Here is the link to tonight's working document. So on June 2nd, 2010, a missed call cost Armando Galarraga a perfect game for the Detroit Tigers. The umpire that made the call, it was a ground ball to first base, and the first baseman fielded the ball, tossed the ball to the pitcher, Andres Galarraga, who was covering first base, and the umpire called the runner safe when it was obvious that he was out. Jim Joyce, veteran MLB umpires during the game, thought he got it right, and he was insistent that he got it right. After the game, he reviewed the video and said he kicked the shit out of that one. My question, our welcome question is, how do you manage the game after a mistake or a perceived mistake? So go ahead and click on the survey and respond to that question. It's 9:06. I'm going to check in with you in 3 minutes. How do you recover after a mistake or a perceived mistake? One more minute. All right, thank you for that. Volunteers, or I will start cold calling. How do we recover from a mistake or a perceived mistake?
My viewpoint on it is
I'll volunteer,
It's like-
Steve.
Thank you.
That's Kyle.
All right, I see that. Thank you, Kyle.
I think you have to acknowledge it in whatever capacity it is, a big mistake or a little mistake. You have to at least acknowledge it to yourself in your mind. But then as soon as you can, you have to, within that acknowledgement, you have to just move past it so you can handle the rest of the game. I think if you try to bury it and don't acknowledge it or kind of come to terms with it as much as you can in that little short period of space that you have, then it's just going to sit in the back of your mind and eat away. So I think the sooner you can just kind of mentally deal with it and reset and then move on to the next call. Anyway, that's what I do.
Hey, Kyle, how do you move on? Is it an acknowledgement, like an admission, or like either to yourself, it's like, oh, I fucked that one up, or is it to a coach, or is it to your partner? How do you move on?
It depends on the mistake, right? I mean, I think it might be, and sometimes it might be an admission to a coach if you did make a mistake and you verbally acknowledge that and move on, or verbally have a brief conversation with a partner or partners about what happened. Or sometimes it's just to yourself. Sometimes you're the only one that really knows if you were right or not, if you made a mistake. And those are probably the worst ones, are the ones where you're continually doubting yourself as you go on through the game. And if you don't deal with that in your own mind, that will just kind of snowball on you. And then you're spending cycles worrying on that versus everything else. Oh, by the way, when you're trying to deal with that in your mind, the rest of the game and the world is moving on around you. So I guess to answer your question quickly, sometimes it is a brief acknowledgement and of what happened, but then after that, after I acknowledge, if it is a mistake or we agree to disagree, at that point we're not gonna allow this one thing that happened before to kind of drag on through the entire game.
Thank you for that. Others, how do we recover from a mistake?
Personally, I like to figure out like if there was one thing I did wrong or like I could change in the future. Like a lot of the times I would sometimes struggle with like, was the ball backside of the net or in the net? And it was just as easy as going up 5 feet closer when the ball is getting closer to the crease. And like just those little things that you don't really think about the mistake, but you think more about what I could do in the future to change it.
Okay. Thank you for that. Other recovery methods. I had the opportunity to work with Randy and Mateo on Wednesday night. We had Carol and Edgewood, and I had a call and I confused my partners and the players and the coaches because I pointed the wrong way. And so that happens to me like a couple of times during the season. I remember Mateo looking at me, he's like, what do you have? And I just said, I had a hold on 99 black and I pointed the wrong way. And I think it's like Mateo's prompt to like looking at me, it's like, what do you have? When I said it, I knew what I had. And then I realized I pointed the wrong way. And I think everybody was okay with that. Both coaches were confused, but it was just like what I said and what my mechanics were. were incorrect, but I just owned it. Later in the game, there was a conference and I had to tell the coaches, I was like, you know what? The best 2 words to end a conversation is "you're right." And the coach was like, okay, cool. I thank you for acknowledging that. I didn't admit that we were on different pages and some things had happened, but it was just like, you know what, coach, that observation is entirely correct. You are right. And he's like, the look on his face, he was like smiling. He was like, okay, cool. And I was like, and here's what we're going to do from now on. And, but that's what what helped me during that game Wednesday night. Other strategies.
Stephen, mine's more, I would say, after a game strategy, because there's no question when you kick a call, it sucks to get through the game. It's just survival in some cases. But for me, it's after the game where you're simply talking to your crew. You're diving into the rule book, whatever play. I mean, I can still crystally clear remember calls that I've butchered, and you talk through it with your crew. You understand maybe what happened, why you screwed it up. You look at the rule and reference that, but then, WILOA has the huddle film, and I take full advantage of that. And I go and just dive in and watch exactly what happened. Just face the fire and learn from your mistake. And for me, at the end of the day, that's the best way to go. I mean, I'm going to butcher a call in the future, no question about it, but I'm damn well going to learn from it and not make that mistake again.
Thanks, Joe. Anyone else?
Steve, I'll share. It seems to me oftentimes it's the coach is complaining not necessarily about the call you made, about maybe the call you didn't make.
Okay.
Right. And so to me, I'm like, thanks, coach. Thanks for bringing that to my awareness. I'll watch for it. Thanks, and try to be somewhat acknowledging, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Again, going back to the communication that we talked about earlier, and I think it was week 1 where it was just like, yes, we acknowledge, and one of the things that I learned from Nick, we listen to coaches whenever they ask questions, when they might advocate, such as, can you watch for this? We do not have to respond whenever they start educating us on what it is that we are doing or commenting on who we are as people. But that asking and advocating absolutely deserves an acknowledgement. Other strategies for moving on within the game. What has helped you? Sid, what happens with you, kid? Sid the kid. You never miss anything, right? So you don't know? It's been years.
I try not to, but hey, we're all human. And yeah, like you said, a lot of times you have to turn around and swallow your pride and turn around and say, coach, you're right. I missed that one, and I'll try to be in the right position next time, or be there and get it right.
Thanks, Sid. Last call. Strategies.
Hey, Steve.
Yeah, what's up, Mark?
Hey, I think there's a couple of things here. One is if you make them, there's a difference between a material mistake and an immaterial mistake,
Please
right?
explain.
Like you miss a goal, happens, right? Could have a game-changing effect. That's one issue. The other issue is if you just screw up an out of bounds or a call, and I think if that happens, the key is, and we've done this, I mean, you and I have done this, is you go, whoop, okay, my bad, I got it. You give the coaches a chance to reset, you give everybody a chance to reset. You say, it's my fault, my bad, I made this mistake, I pointed in the wrong direction, or it went out on red, but it should have been white or whatever, right? And the key is to stop, get it right, make the right call, and then take a breath and admit it, and then give everybody the chance to reset their game to reflect whatever the call is. The material call is tougher because a lot of times that's after the fact. We are looking at the film. And in that case, I just think you just gotta kind of shake it off and get better, because we're all gonna screw up a real call from time to time, right? Except for Sid, who the last time he made a bad call was like in the late 60s, I think. So
No, I think that was Jurassic period.
Thank you for that. And I think that the takeaway is, it's like, we're gonna mess up. We're human. And what strengths do you have what strengths do you bring to the game? Utilize those strengths to kind of get through it and then be ready to move on. I heard references to, it's like, hey, I'm going to work on my positioning because I felt I did this incorrectly. Or, there is this, and brain research shows there's like anticipated outcome. And we thought something was going to happen and it didn't happen, or it did happen and it wasn't what we anticipated. But we've already reached our conclusion because we've seen this play or this type of foul a million times. I find myself reaching for a flag. It's like, oh, this kid's totally going to light this kid up. And then it's like, he doesn't. I'm like, either the flag is out and it's like, ooh, that was bad, or the kid changes. And so we have those moments where we have the opportunity to fall victim to the idea of anticipated outcome. Thank you for sharing. Again, we have hundreds of years of experience here as a group, and we can all learn from each other. Tonight, the topic is around goal setting and maximizing the opportunities that we have as officials to prepare ourselves to communicate with coaches and to get the game in. As Randy says, when the score reaches 0, everybody walks off the field safe and healthy, and it doesn't matter to us who wins. And so, beginning from the very beginning of the game, I want to challenge you to think about your overall, what is your goal for the game, and each of your individual actions during a static period of conferences versus the dynamic period of games. What can you do to effectively or more efficiently meet your goal? So, first question, what is your goal for every game? If you don't have a goal, think of one. Some of you are motivated by the challenge of it. Some of you are motivated by learning new skills. My personal goal for every game, I want to create a standard where the coaches coach, the players play, and the officials officiate. That's my goal. What is yours? And to that end, in what ways can conferences help you reach your goal? So that is on the survey. The time is 9:21. I'm gonna give you 2 minutes to respond. Go.
Are you on Atlantic time? It's only 7:21.
What did I say?
9:21.
Okay, it's like I have like the 24-hour clock and the Zoom screen covered up the 1.
It's okay. Math is hard.
Dude, reading is hard.
Not from not is not.
Not from not. All right, Jethro. I know Randy's goal is to get to 0s. I already shared that one.
Yeah, it is. I tell well, you heard me.
Tell
I tell
everybody that.
coaches, I tell everybody, I go, we're all gonna get to 0s together.
Perez, where do you find the survey?
It's in the chat.
Okay.
Do you need me to repost it? I can.
If he had shown up one of the previous 3 weeks, he'd already know that.
Oh, I was gonna be cordial.
Wow, shot in a goal.
Wow, dude's like doing sled hockey, and Don has no mercy.
Yeah.
I guess I know who I'm gonna partner up this year.
Well, I missed the last 2 weeks, and I spent the
We
last
missed you.
2.5 hours reviewing them right before this. So
You're
This is-
sick of
This
us.
is hour 3.5.
All right, I'm letting you know now, Jeremy Ghosh, you're gonna be prepared to share your goal. Luke, let me know your goal. And let's see, let's turn the page. And Alec, you're gonna be my first 3 shares. Lucky for you, I have like a short-term memory disorder, so I can't remember who I just said. So. All right, Jeremy, I told you were first.
All right, so I guess my goal is to facilitate a fair and safe game.
What does that mean? What is fair?
Um,
I just got off this a call about equity and equality, the difference. So I'm sorry, I'm being a penis right now because I'm like, what's fair?
a fair game meaning that it's played by the rules and
Okay.
it's officiated properly, as well as you can to the rules,
Okay.
and keeping safety on the field.
Okay. And second one, in what ways can conferences help you reach that goal?
Let's say that again.
In what ways can conferences help you reach that goal?
Well, by setting up expectations, and if you have a partner that's stronger in one area or weaker in another area, you can communicate that
Okay, thanks.
with
man.
each other.
Yeah, cool. Luke, you're up. What's your goal for every game?
Mine was very similar actually. Officiate the fairest game I can while keeping players safe and everyone satisfied with the fairness of calls, I guess.
Okay. Okay. When we have, and this is just to play angel's advocate here, will a flag prevent an injury?
No.
So when we talk about safety, how can we kind of like reframe that idea of safety?
I mean, I guess calls can like
I
go ahead.
I would argue it can. It may not prevent that hit, but it may prevent future hits. And if the players and coaches are aware that you're going to be scrutinizing those hits, anything that's close to the bucket region, right? I think that'll prevent the next hit down the road, the next injury down the road. So I think if you demonstrate to the coaches and captains, hey, we're going to be keeping a sharp eye on this and we're not going to let anything get out of the hand, that will send the message and the tone for the rest of the game that, hey, don't be getting high with those because we're going to be calling them, and that will prevent a future injury, I guess. So it may not stop that hit that just occurred, but it can prevent future ones.
So are you saying that, if we're consistent and we are applying an interpretation of the rules that with safety in mind, that we could have a game where it's not let them play and we are reacting, we can be proactive?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And then Alec, what's your goal for every game?
Sorry, I was trying to get unmuted.
That's all right, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be echoing pretty similar to the previous two, but definitely consistency and safety, I would say, is probably my overall goal.
Okay.
Not just consistency in the one game. Obviously, we talked about it last week. Want to make the same call in the first quarter as we do in the fourth quarter, but I mean, at the end of the day, trying to be consistent game to game. Like it or not, in a season, we probably end up with the same team multiple times. I like it to where when I have a team, they know what to expect from me. They know that I'm going to be consistent game to game. So trying to keep that going. And then the conferences, I would say, just pretty much exact same thing that was already said, but just to set the tone, make sure everybody's on the same page and set up the game for consistent calls. And I mean, yeah, being on the same page as everybody. And I don't know if that was that spoke last, but you asked, can a flag prevent an injury? Absolutely not. All we can do is call what we see, but it 100% can prevent the next injury, because at that point you're setting the tone. And I mean, our job is to call what we see. I can't stop a kid cleaning somebody's clock, but I can sure set the tone that that's not going to be acceptable, so that hopefully the next person thinks twice. So
Alec, I heard something that I was really debating when I was planning this. It's like, I heard when I walk on the field, I want the coaches to know. And I was like, how do I phrase that to officials? And I think that's a long-term thing, not a one-night session or as you gain experience. But I think that is the next like reflection point of like, when you walk on the field, what kind of game are the officials anticipating, or are the coaches and players anticipating? And I think that you know, as we progress, that is a great question, because I often think about that. And so think about that, guys. It's like, okay, I walk on the field, what do the coaches know they're gonna get? Next. We have, by my estimation, we meet with our partners, we meet with coaches, and we meet with players, and I did not include the table people, but again, using the goal, what is your goal in having a pregame conference with your partner? Sometimes I've walked into a locker room and it's like, oh, let's just do the same old, same old. And I was like, if I had a horrible game or a negative experience with someone, I don't want to have the same old, same old. So what is it? How can we maximize our time? Sometimes we're coming from work and we got 30 minutes and we got to change, and we got to get on the field, and there's a whole bunch of stuff we have to do. What's your goal in having a pregame conference with your partner? It's 7:30. Let's go 2 minutes to respond. What's your goal? And let's see, we'll go Paul, Ray, and Mike Hoffman as my respondents. Paul, Ray, and Mike.
Steve, while they're responding, I'll share with them the conversation we had earlier this week. And Alec kind of alluded to it. You do call a game different later in the game. And whether you think so or not, folks, you really do. And Mark Jameson knows this. Don Rohr knows this. A lot of the people on this call know this. If this game is a blowout, you're talking to that coach who's winning and you're telling him flat out, you are not getting any 50-50 calls from here on out, because you have one thing in mind from that point forward: the safety of his players, because you know the team that's getting throttled is looking for a pound of flesh. And I'll let the other guys respond if I'm wrong.
No, I think you're 100% correct. It's and don't you also talk to the coach and go, hey, you know, let's have everybody play left-handed, or 4 passes then shoot, or just kind of dial it back. Like, you got it, you're winning, it's over. Let's not rub their face in the mud.
Right, because you as the crew, you're screwed, because you know the team that's losing wants some type of revenge, no matter what it is. So you got to, coach, you got to help me out.
Well, and most times when that happens, those are teams that are not as mature maybe as other teams. I mean, the programs. So you might have a bunch of hockey players, or, you know, freshmen or sophomores playing on the varsity level. And you're right, they're looking for payback.
So it is true. You will call it a little bit different. because you've already warned everybody, especially the coach that's winning. And you're probably going to go over and tell the other coach, hey,
It was like, yeah, end of May is when it was.
dial back on the, your players.
See, you guys
but,
were like.
We're going to try to, get everybody out here at zeros, on their own 2 feet. So, and that comes with experience, guys. And I'm not telling you it's right or wrong. I'm just telling you that's what I do. I grabbed my partner and I said, we're going to go talk to the coach. And this is what we're going to do. We're telling them this. So there's no illusions going forward.
I remember
One of
last.
the things that I've found myself doing is if I have a team that is looking for that pound of flesh, I remind the winning coach, hey, I'll protect your players and just don't take the bait. Please don't take the bait, because that's a way to let the other team back in when you're giving up, whenever you find yourself down and trying to kill man up situations.
Yeah, Steve, some of the time when that happens, like Randy was just talking about, talk to the coach, but turn around, take a timeout, get both coaches together and let them know what's going on and have them go back to their team so they can tell their teams what's in store, and then bring them back out and hopefully resume play with some respect.
Thank you. If we can return back to the question, what is your goal in having a pregame conference? Paul, Ray, and Mike. Paul, you're first. What do you got? Is Paul here? Ray, what's your goal in having a pregame conference with your partner?
One of the first things I said was just becoming familiar with them if I haven't met them before. And then kind of just like talking about how we want the game to go. If like one of us has had either of the two teams before, like things that we've noticed or things that we want to keep an eye out for. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Mike.
First, I like, to make sure we know each other, just how things are going. Secondly, how are we going to communicate? What are we going to, what are the signals? There's eye contact, but there's also, hey, if I caught it, I'm going to tap my chest. If I point to you, you're going to do it. Clearly get those out, because, not everybody does it exactly the same way, but just to reinforce, this is how we're going to communicate. Okay, is that clear? And then the second thing I always you guys, the veterans have always done this, is what are we going to work on? What are you trying to work on? Get that out so I can potentially help, because the partner can always help you achieve your goals. That's why we're both out there. We're a team. And the same time, I like to share what I'm trying to work on so they know, hey, yep, you got that one right, or yep, I can see, we'll do this to try to make it better for you. So I think those are the big things I try to get out of a conference with my partner prior to games.
Mike, thanks. What I heard that I really appreciate the specificity of, sometimes it's like, oh, what are we going to do today? Oh, let's have good communication. What I appreciate about your response was, it's like, let's have eye contact, because good communication, what does that look like and sound like? And Mike, I thank you for sharing eye contact. If I tap my chest, I'm going to do this. If I point at you, this is what I expect. Sometimes, guys, we can help ourselves by identifying those details. And what is it? It's like, oh, we need good communication and let's hustle. Okay, great. But thank you, Mike. Thank you for that.
Yeah. And there's always, and we all have different ways. There's some of the gray areas that always occur in the games. Like, how does he, and I've seen this handle different people, and I'm not saying there's a right way to do it, but the ball's on a face off and it rolls into the beyond the restraining line, do we say play, or do we say possession, or do we say release? Different people have different ways of doing that. Or if it's a potential over and back, are we saying yes, 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 or clean, 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 or whatever? You know, that's the kind of things, those are the kind of communications. Let's get down pregame so we don't screw it up in the game.
Thank you for that. And that leads us exactly to our next point. What are three things, and Mike used the term gray areas. What are three things that you cover with your partner before every game to help meet that goal of providing a fair, safe game, or everybody reaches zeros together, or everybody does their job? What are three things that if you have 6 minutes for a pregame, what are the three things that you're going to talk about? And we'll go, let's see, let's have Ian, Chris Hagan, and Drake. Ian, Chris Hagan, and Drake. If I called on you already, then sorry. You got 6 minutes. Everybody's in a rush. What three things are you going to cover? Or if you have half an hour, what are the three things you're going to focus on?
Roaring long and long.
Long and long.
I won't say much during the course of the game because my mechanics will tell you what I'm doing.
All right, that's two. What's the last one?
Last one is, if the coaches are giving you shit, let me know and I'll put you on the other side and I'll take care of it.
Thank you, Randy. Hashtag HRF 140. All right, we got one more minute. All right, Chris, what do you got? What are three things that that you feel absolutely essential every time you got to cover?
I would say you get the first personal foul correct. Don't let things escalate.
Okay, so setting a standard. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, right out of the
Okay.
chute.
Standard to play.
Yeah. Do you use your technical fouls early to control the energy, so to speak,
Okay.
in the game? I'm not sure about the third.
Okay. It's something to work on. It's something to work on. Thanks for sharing. Ian, what do you got? Three things.
I would say I kind of liked how I'm not sure who said it, but talking about strengths and weaknesses coming into it. You know, last year being a first year official, just kind of talking to those other officials if they had, you know, more experience, just kind of helping me out, answering questions I had before the game if I was unsure about anything. You know, taking a walk around the field, making sure everything's set up, you know, coordinating and talking to the meeting the people as partners, coaches, you know, your table staff and those sorts of things, just to make sure everyone's on the same page. Yeah, mainly that.
And my takeaway from in hearing that is the thanks for prompting my thoughts. We're all in different places. And, you know, as a less experienced official, there's things that you feel comfortable with and that, you know, that's like, if I take care of this, then I am, at least in my mindset, I'm going to be prepared for that. Thank you for sharing that. Drake, what do you got? Drake, are you there?
I just thought of my third one.
Oh, okay. What is it?
Just like going to my senior officials who have seen these teams more often than I have, is player tendencies or team history. Sometimes that will get your antenna up to look for certain things.
Thank you for that. Yes, that's one of the things that people find important. It's like that's one of the things that I ask. It's like, have you had either one of these teams before? If so, what did you see? If not, what I don't know. What do we want to work on if we haven't seen these teams before? So thank you for that, Chris. Drake, you took yourself off mute and then you put yourself back on.
Sorry,
You're okay.
Ben. Our new daughter came this Friday, so I've been stepping away from
Congratulations,
my
man.
computer. Thank you.
Being the dad of daughters is the best. So
I just got back just in time to hear you say that I'm up. So which question were you on?
what are 3 things that you cover with your partner before every game to help meet your goal?
Let's
I like your first example of ask questions of your partner. Thank you, Drake. That's a great point to cover. You're like, I just got out of the car. I just got off traffic. My daughter was just born. What do I need to know? That is a fantastic point to start with, Drake. You're brilliant. Good job.
Well, thank you. As some of the things I'll talk about, kind of like weird things you've seen this year, questions on rules that you've come across that you weren't sure how to explain them best. And sometimes if I'm working with newer officials or less talkative officials in our group, kind of throw out like a meatball question, just get like conversations sparked, get them feeling more comfortable to call games with you.
Wow, thanks. The idea of establishing that communication and reinforcing the message that we're a team and we're going to get through this together. That by taking that effort, you might be able to save yourself later. Good work. Any others? 3 important things. Volunteers to share.
Hey, Steve, I think
What's up,
I think it really depends on who you're working with. So like if you and I are working a game and we have 6 minutes for pregame, you and I are talking about about the individual teams and what weird shit we've seen that season, right? That will typically be our 6-minute pregame. But if I'm working with somebody I haven't worked with before or who's relatively new, that's a different thing, because now you need to have the discussion with, where are we going to draw the line on a slash, right? Did you work with Randy last week and you're not calling any slashes, or where does that line lie? I think, first of all. Second of all, I think you do need to talk about the teams and if you've had that team or what we're walking into, right? I think that's a really important piece. And then the third piece is exactly what Mike Hoffman talked about is how do you communicate with each other? How are we going to do this? One of my pet peeves that I bring up all the time is when you're the trail and you're in front of the bench and you have the play or you have the call and then you spin on your heel and, report it to the table and you've left your partner hanging there who's standing there with the goalie going, I don't know what he has. Let's see if we can figure it out together. Right. And so those communications on who has the whistle, what is the call, those types of things and communication in the game. I think if you cover kind of those 3 things, I think that's in an abbreviated pregame. I think those are, in my mind, are kind of the top ones.
Okay. Thank you.
Chris, I remember last year it was, I think we were doing USM in West Bend, and both of us had ended up having an interesting game with them either earlier on in the week or the week prior. And so we ended up talking about that, what both of us had ended up experiencing with the given teams. And we actually ended up using walkie-talkies to talk across field almost the entire game, just to make things simpler. So both of us were in the know the entire time. And that was kind of a interesting tool that we ended up using, kind of just to simplify things. And then if anything came up, kind of just smooth things out real quick. So both of us were in the know.
If you are an official with, say, less than 3 years experience, what is it that you need from me or someone that has done this for a little bit? What is it that you need from us? It's a big question, but we need to know. I don't want to assume anything.
I'll answer, Steve.
What do you got, Mark?
I kind of enjoy being newer because usually I ask everybody I work with is a senior official, which is kind of nice. But I tell them that I'm 100% open to feedback. So if you see me doing something and you think I should be doing A when I'm doing B, tell me. I'm open to it. So I kind of take the barrier down in communication
Okay.
with them, so that they know it's okay. Hey, I'm not a young kid, but you can still tell me if I need correction. I'm a big boy. So I think that goes to communication. And yeah, I think if I'm working with you or anybody else who's a senior official, I'm looking to learn from you and watching you. And I just, want you guys to know that I accept the feedback because I want to get better every single game.
Thank you.
Mark, that's a great point. And for newer officials, if you see something that us seasoned officials are doing wrong, you got to tell us. We're not impervious to feedback. So if we are doing something that is throwing your game off, it's a two-way street. So don't, turtle up on us and say, hey, you could have been in better position on something on this call here because you kind of left me in a lurch here on bench side. You got to tell us.
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever I'm working with someone I haven't worked with before, I was like, if you see me doing something that you have questions about, ask. Because sometimes I'm doing stuff intentionally because of experience, and other times I may not be because I am not paying attention. So please ask me.
I'll reiterate with Mark, there's no ego, right? Asking for constructive criticism in the pregame conference and also that leads to oftentimes I got the opportunity to work with Mike Hoffman several times last year and the opportunity to say, hey, I was 100% with you on that slash call. Great call. Good. That kind of reinforcement is what comes along with when you let them know that you're open to criticism.
Thanks, everybody. Next question. What are at least 3 questions you ask to ensure you meet your goal? How do you promote communication with your partner? For me, my goal, again, coaches coach, players play, officials officiate. I ask my partners, I ask Mateo, what do you need from me to be a good partner? That is one thing that I always ask my partner. I ask, what do you need from me? What are you working on? This is what I'm working on. And please, if you see me doing something, let me know. There might be a reason for it, there might not be. And so that way, my goal is with my partner that we are focused on the task of officiating. So what are 3? They don't have to be questions. I guess they can be directives. All right, 2 minutes, go. We haven't heard from Dylan, Mitch, or Tim Marquardt. So Dylan, Mitch, and Tim, please be prepared to share.
Yeah, I worked, while they're all putting their answers in.
Okay, go ahead, Mandy.
I worked with Mike yesterday. We did some GLL, and I almost wanted to grab Mike and say, stop it. But I'll tell you one thing, you're working with Mike, he asked me every time we had a break, what do you got for me? What do I need to work on? It was like, dude, you got it nailed. Okay, stop.
No, as I recall, Randy, you went on for quite about 5 minutes on things.
Right. We didn't have 5 minutes because Hal was running the clock. So,
That's right.
Oh, geez.
but yeah, guys, when you get out there, just call your game, okay? And then when you get a chance to get with your partner, just talk about certain things, right? I mean, that's what you want to do. Because and I see Dylan's green here. Dylan and I had a game, I think it was last year, when we had a fight breakout, and Dylan just took care of it. And I just sat and wrote down numbers.
Randy, I forgot what teams those even were. Like, I remember it happened, but surprisingly, I forgot the teams that it was against.
What? How could you forget that? All right, Dylan, what do you do? What are 3 questions you ask to ensure that you meet your goal? What is your goal? And then what are questions that you ask to make sure that you meet that goal?
So my goal is just going to be going back to probably 5 or 6 questions before to make
Okay.
sure that everyone leaves the field under their own power, that the game is adhered to the rules as closely as possible.
Okay.
But to do that, you got to make sure you're on the same page with your partner. So
What does that look like and sound like for you?
being on the same page with my partner is, we talk for at least 5 minutes beforehand about what verbiage we're going to use. Say I'm working with you or Randy, over and backs or something else. You're not going to verbally call him out, but say I'm working with Don Rohr, he's going to be saying yes, 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 no, 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 and that just that forces you to look out for that. But even just the manner in which you're communicating as well. And the only time that this has happened was with you, Perez. You handed me a walkie-talkie with an earpiece on it and said, "Here, we're using this tonight." And we were at Oak Creek, and it just opened my mind to how much easier it makes it to keep things under control, to stay on the same page, to be discreet about it, especially when a game's getting tense. And
The kid leaves the bench to start a fight.
yeah, seriously, you gotta it just allows you to be a lot more smooth and a lot more discreet about how you're going to keep things going. But those are all things that help you to run that game smoothly and meet your goal in making that game run smooth, making everyone leave under their own power, and ultimately you learning a thing or two to help you get to that next level that you want to go to.
Thank you for that. Mitch, to promote communication, what is it that you do? Is Mitch there? If not, Tim's ready. Go, Tim.
Yeah, so I guess kind of stepping back a second to the previous point was, kind of getting to the goal, and there's a lot of things, but I think kind of what I strive for is that, we as the 2 people out on the field act as a single unit as best as we can. And I think a lot of that boils down to, a lot of the things that were already said, kind of understanding, those nonverbal or those intangible things. Are we going to use a lot of hand signals? Do you want to, huddle and talk out of every play? Or if we just give each other a hand signal, noting that we both saw the slash, we're good with, someone going and reporting it without us getting together every time. And, how tight are you going to call the game? Do you let one kind of minor, what could possibly be a slash go and then, throw the flag on the second one, right? Immediately following the first, hit to the arms, or those types of things. And just, I think it's kind of that, it's hard to explain, but it's kind of gelling with your partner. And, you try to strive for that every game. And so it's just understanding, what you can do to help each other be better. And I'll also add, you asked a minute ago, like for newer guys, it's going to be my 3rd year of, what do we want from the seasoned people? And I appreciate like one good thing and one constructive thing. Sometimes if it's overly too constructive, then you just feel like, okay, I'm basically not doing anything good out here. So if you can find something good, that's always encouraging too.
Thank you for that. And as speaking, what helped me when I was first starting out is one of my mentors said, pick one thing. And as one of the more veteran officials, and one of the things that we can do as veteran officials is ask, what is one thing? Not everything, but one thing. You know, if I'm working with a youth official on his first game, my goal is for them to blow their whistle loudly. And that is a fantastic goal for that whoever I'm working with. So as the more veteran guys, whoever is the R or the crew chiefs or however you want to think about it, let's work on narrowing the focus to one thing for folks, because it can get overwhelming. And then, like Tim said, we don't want to give them a laundry list and leave people. It's like, fuck, I can't even do anything. Did I tie my shoes right? You know, because I felt like that after a game where I was just like, these are 27 things you did wrong. And what did I do right? No, you got there at 4:30 instead of 4:25, like you said you were gonna. So that was it. And then Mitch, what are questions that you ask to make sure that you meet your goal?
Yeah, I think one of the things, and somebody said it earlier, but openness. Let's talk about the calls, and it's just as important to talk about the calls that we didn't make. Why did we pass on that one? What did you see? And literally be able to talk through that and not just stand there and look at your counter official. Just be open. I'm willing to learn. I want to know what they're thinking, and I need some compliments to reinforce me, and hopefully we can share and we can grow together and get the game right at the end.
Thanks for that, Mitch. I think that you brought up a really good point in that it is non-calls. I don't know if you guys know that in the NFL, they're evaluated on every play on calls, fouls that they throw, and non-fouls. So they're evaluated on every play, and they get feedback on their no calls. And so Mitch brings up, it's like, let's talk about why we passed on that, or what we saw, or what we didn't see, or what it was that you thought happened versus or your perception or your experience. And that helps us better understand what happened. Again, Wednesday night, coaches were screaming that there was all kinds of head contact. Mateo and Randy and I had nothing, and Randy simply told the coaches, like, all that noise you heard was sticks, and it looked like this, but it really wasn't. But again, it was talking about the no calls, and we got in the locker room and we all agreed. It's like, did we all see that in the same way? And the answer was yeah. So talking about those no calls is just as important to talk about the fouls that we have. And when you look at it, you know, if you have a rough game, you might have, you know, 15 or 16 flags, but how many plays are in a lacrosse game or possible violations that we ruled that weren't infractions? So we make more no calls than calls. And so those are important to talk about too.
Right. Hey, Steve,
go ahead.
I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm glad Mitch brought it up too. Veteran guys, praise, and I don't mean this as your lesser officials, because you're still my partner on the field, but acknowledge a great non-call, because those are just as important as the big call.
Absolutely.
Let people know, hey, that was great that you passed on that, because that was not a flag. Because a lot of times when guys pass, myself included, you're like, geez, I don't know if I should throw it or not. I'm gonna go. I didn't see anybody else throw a flag. And you're like, oh shoot, that's a get out of jail free card, right? Well, it's if there's a pass and you see it, acknowledge it. Let them know.
Thank you for that. We talked about how we can prepare our using conferences with our partner to help us meet our goal. Now, next conference is the coach, and these are going to get shorter because, you know, our coaches conference isn't as long as our partner conference, but it's still important. And so, other than certification, captains, and in-home, what is your goal in conferencing with the coach, and how does this match your overarching goal for the game? It's 8:03, 2 minutes, go. And we'll go Max, Dave Zakim, and Mike Sabrazi. Max, whenever you're ready, you can bring yourself off mute. And what's your goal in conferencing with the coach?
And my goal is just to make sure that we're demonstrating as the crew that we're demonstrating that we're open to communication with them throughout the game, as long as it's in a professional manner. And that's what I tell them right away too. Is like, Coach, happy to talk to you at any point during the game, but there's sometimes I have to focus on the field. If you have a question and I can't answer it right then because there's play right in front of me, we'll get you an answer. We'll get back to you, as soon as play allows. If you're going to be yelling and screaming the whole time, I've got to ignore that and focus on what's on the field, right? But if we establish that we have good constructive dialogue early on, that helps manage the game flow a lot smoother, because the teams are generally a reflection of their coach. And if you can make sure that the coach is acting professionally, generally their teams do as well.
Thank you. So what I heard was, it's like you're going to use this opportunity to show that you're open to communication, and at the same time, there's going to be guidelines or expectations for his behavior, and you're stating the expectations that he might have for you in terms of when and how you're going to communicate back. Thanks for that, Max. Dave, what is your goal in conferencing with the coach?
I think to go along with that, I like to address any concerns they have.
Okay. What does that look like and sound like? How do you manage that?
Well, if they have concerns about any rule changes or like their last game or any other game this season, if something wasn't being officiated the way they would like it to be, or if they have something like, hey, this happens all the time, can you please watch for it, type of thing. Like if there's something like consistently that way,
okay, like
that maybe I haven't been seeing in different games or whatnot that they have been seeing,
okay,
to look for.
All right. So in that, you're asking questions and you're demonstrating an openness to, it's like, what is your experience? And I think the benefit of that is like, you're not coming in with all the answers and it's like, here's what's going to happen today. And so thanks for that.
Right. Cause I see things different than other people. Everybody else sees something different every time. So it's like, if I can communicate with them to see like what they expect out of us, aside from obviously like an officiated game.
Okay.
Maybe there's issues that have come up that they haven't felt like they were addressed properly.
Okay, cool. Thanks for sharing. Mike.
Well, I think the first two kind of covered it all. Usually beginning of the season, I like to typically ask if there's any new rule questions that they have. Maybe any questions of the flow of the game, and kind of everybody covered it, kind of how during the game, how we'll cover questions and concerns, and pretty much that's it.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Mike. In the three responses we got, what I heard was kind of allusions to questions that we might ask so that we can get the information that we want. You're not going to have time to write, but is there what other questions might you offer the group to help meet the goals that we've all had about fair and safe? Any other magic questions?
I know this was briefly addressed earlier, but this is more so with communication with your partner. because people have talked about like various nonverbal cues on the in between stuff. So making sure that you end up asking your partner, because all of us have our each idiosyncrasies with how we end up going about various situations and everything, such as like offsides, whether it's in or not, goals, how we'll end up resuming play and so forth. So just making sure that both people are on the same page.
Okay. I think Dave, what I heard from Dave is kind of connected to the next question is like, do you ask what concerns the coach might have about the other team? If so, why? If not, why not? Would there be a benefit to asking that question? What have you seen on film? Some of these coaches, this is their job. You know, it's like they spend, you know, in addition to their work, 20 to 30 hours a week preparing their kids. They're watching film. What might the benefit of asking that question be? Or what is the consequence, the negative consequence of asking that? Don, what do you got?
So I think the pod,
you're cutting out.
If it's about strategy, sorry, the positive is if it's about a strategy, like the other team runs a 10-man rise, so they want to watch that in case we see offsides. That's definitely a positive that could help us. But if they say number 77 is a hothead and he's going to commit penalties, that's something that could prejudice us going into that game. And, you know, we might be quicker to throw a flag on that kid. So that's not something we want to do in that regard, because we don't want that to affect our decision-making until he's already made a couple penalties, and then we know he's a hothead, and that's a different matter.
Okay. Thanks, Don. Andy, you took yourself off mute. What do you got?
Well, I was going to say something along the lines of what Don just said about being careful not to let the coach know you might be coming in with some kind of a bias or prejudice because of the things you don't say, maybe.
Okay.
Oh, this is a team full of football players, right?
Yeah. Tim, did you have a comment you wanted to share?
Yeah, I was going to say maybe a different way to go about that, especially like as you get in, you know, it doesn't really work maybe the first couple games of the season, but as things go along, you know, you can ask the coach like, hey, you know, what are you seeing this season? You know, what do you think, you know, something along the lines of, you know, are you seeing anything that you think needs to be, you know, looked at a little differently, or, you know, what kind of calls are you thinking need to be, you know, or types of plays should we be on the lookout for? Because maybe that's a way that you can kind of ask the question without like asking about specifically the other team, more of general.
Okay. Other comments?
I think with the pregame certification with the coaches, Scott Saunders always is asking any questions or concerns at this time. So you leave it open and let them kind of give you a idea before action starts what they are expecting from us.
Thanks, Chris. Scott, if you're there, why do you do that? And what got you to that point? All right, last topic for tonight is captains. Ah! Wrong way. We talked to captains. Some of you that I've worked with a lot, I know your speech, but what is your goal in talking to the captains? It's 8:12. Give you 2 minutes. What is your goal in your conference with the captains? And then what do you say to ensure that you meet your goal? We'll just combine those two. let's see, we'll have Rich Thompson and then let's see. Have I gone through everybody tonight? Rich, Ryan Cornelius, and Mr. Halen are going to talk about their captain's conferences. And what do they say? Rich, if you're ready, you can take yourself off mute and go.
I talk about when I meet with the captains, just I try to set the ground rules and tenor of the game. And for what I say, I talk about sportsmanship, playing the game the right way, and watching slashes and high hits.
Okay. What does playing the game the right way mean?
Within the set of rules.
Okay.
No extracurriculars. There's a level of, I think, interaction and sportsmanship between, there's jawing, but we don't want anything to get excessive that then leads on to, high hits or stuff from behind, things like that.
Okay.
You play tough, but play within the rules.
Okay. Thank you for that. Ryan.
Typically, whenever I end up talking with the captains, as Richard said, first thing right off the bat is kind of set the tone. Ask the captains if they have any questions about potential rule changes, especially towards the beginning of the season, because there's usually 2 or 3 every year. And then also let them know that if their team has a concern, we either want it coming from them or their coach, and they were chosen to be captains for a reason, and they should act accordingly.
Thank you for that. And then.
Hey, Steve.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this was the most enlightening thing. Years ago, when I was a lacrosse dad and a brand new lacrosse official, I asked my son, what are those guys telling you in the captain's huddle? And he said to me, he goes, I have no idea because I'm not listening. I'm paying attention. I have to figure out if I'm going to call heads or tails. And then I need to know where the sun's going to be so that we can pick the right goal. And I'm thinking about the game. And that was super enlightening to me. And the reality is these kids aren't listening to you. First of all, they're teenagers and they don't really have that skill set anyway. And the second of all is they're worried about the game and the situation and everything else. And so what I took from that was, in the captain's meeting, pick a thing, like whatever it is, pick a thing. So for me, it's about, look, you guys talk to us, captains, speaking captains, I don't care, it doesn't matter. As long as we talk to each other in the same tone of voice that I'm talking to you now, and your questions are with respect. And then every once in a while I'll say, and they can't be rhetorical, and then I'll ask them if they know what rhetorical means, and they don't. And so I explain it to them, right? Which breaks them out of their in-head, bullshit. But the fact of the matter is those kids don't care what you say to them. So whatever it is that you want to get across, pick a theme and drive it home, and then get out of there and move on, because they're testosterone-laden boneheads for the most part.
Thank you for that, Mark. And I remember having your son in the state final his senior year, and it was just like, hey guys, I think my captain's conference was, hey guys, congratulations, you've been here before, let's go. And that was it. And the thing is like, if you were ever a captain, Mark's point is correct. It's like you're thinking, what do we got to do? And my balls itch, I got to go. So don't make it too long. But at the same time, if your goal is to have clear communication, set the expectations of that conference. Hey guys, talk to me, ask questions, don't yell at me. And again, use that opportunity to ultimately meet your goal. That is all I have tonight. Problems, questions, concerns, let me know. I'm going to be on for a while. If there's anything in planning for next week that you would like me to review, I'm going to on my training agenda, I want to get into some of like the game management things. Rule changes are pretty simple, and then offsides and more effective communications with everybody. And I heard concerns over let's spend more time on the difference between technical fouls and personal fouls. I'll be happy to go over that. You have my email. Give me feedback. Let me know. I mean, we talked about, it's like, what do you need from me as the person facilitating this? Don says pay your dues. What else do you have? Problems, questions, concerns? Let me know. I'm open to feedback. If not, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your participation, your engagement, and have a good evening.
Get your blocks in.
Get your blocks in, says Cone. Let's cover exam questions. All right, got it, Chris. Thank you.
Perez, I'll be sure to go back and watch stuff. Stuff's been kind of hectic with me between school and also just getting over a concussion.
Yeah.
So
thank you, Ryan. Thanks for showing up.
Yep. Have a good one.
Yeah, it's good to have you back.
Hey, Steve, nice job.
What's up, buddy? You doing all right? Missed you last week.
Yeah, I know. I got balled up in some other
It's all right.
personal shit. My dad had a cancer surgery thing that
Oh,
we
man.
had to deal with. So he's cool though. They came out. Seriously, they got it all apparently. So
Yeah, I've been there, done that. So
yeah, yeah, it was a good time.
I'll include him in my prayers.
Thank
good to
you.
hear,
I
Mark.
appreciate that.
He's a tough old dude. As
Yeah.
long as he gets
So
his
no,
two
it
glasses,
was,
old
yeah,
man,
he is.
happy.
Dude, he came home from the hospital. This is wild. The guy came home from the hospital. He spent the night, came home. He's got a drain in his neck. His birthday was Friday, and he looked at me and my sister, and he goes, I'm taking you guys out to dinner. And so we went out to dinner. We had like a bottle of wine. It was nothing. The dude's got a drain in his neck, and I don't know. You know what? When I'm 86, I want to be that hard. It's fucking crazy. Yeah. So anyway, it was overall it was a good week, but started out a little rugged. So anyway. But
All right, my
anyway,
friends.
nice job. You're doing a good job. I'm gonna hang up now, but
All right. Thanks, Mark.
keep it up, bud.
All right. Good night, everybody. See you.
Steve, or Randy. Question for you guys.
What's up, buddy?
How do I get paid for how do I get
You're
paid?
a new guy. You
for
don't get
the
paid.
game?
You don't get paid.
Oh, volunteer.
Yeah, go
baby.
straight-
Steve and I get your game check.
We get Randy gets 65%. I get 45.
Oh, come on. now.
65 and 45.
Yeah, because they're trying to keep me down.
Yeah, exactly.
Got to give more to the man over there. Now, Carol, I think they usually run their checks like at the end of the month.
It's like the
you might get
25th of the
something in
month or
March,
something
at the
like
end of
that.
March.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
Oh.
it's physical checks.
Yeah,
Yeah, they send you-
most of
All the colleges are.
all those.
Oh.
Yeah, everybody in our area will pay physical checks by mail, and that's why it's important to always have the W-9 because they are more organized, and so there'll be secretaries that will contact you if you have a discrepancy or they don't have a W-9. CUW is probably the slowest to pay.
Yeah. And
And,
Carthage will always send you a W-9, even though you sent it to them the week before.
Yeah.
Do
So
you
CUW
get
is like
pay
the slowest.
deductions
MSOE
for-
is pretty quick.
Okay.
So I mean,
Do you
I
get pay
think
deduction
MSOE
for
does
the
it
amount
at
of
the end
flags
of
you
the week.
throw, or
Well,
I know it through like I knew I threw like 20 flags like in that Carroll game. So am I is that like a pay deduction every single flag that hits the ground?
Yes, pretty much, yes.
Oh, come on.
I told you, dude, it's 65-45. Vandy gets one. You know, I'm only 2/3 of a person over here.
That's right.
Well, something's got to pay for that knee. Come on now.
Obamacare. Thanks, Randy.
I'll give you a couple bucks. I'll give a couple bucks your way after hearing those MPS stories.
Oh shit! There was more on fucking Friday, dude. It was like I got a new kid. I got a new kid. He doesn't know the alphabet, like at all. What letter is this? I don't give a fuck. I think that's what he said. I don't give a fuck. I was like, you need to learn how to read. No, I don't. You're 6. So
they're different out there, that's for sure.
well, he was like, can we play a game? I was like, well, let's play the alphabet game. He was like, fuck that. I honestly, that's the way they talk. Fuck that. I got time for that shit.
Yeah, ain't nobody got time for that.
I got time for that shit. Alphabet. Fuck. All right. Good night, everybody. I'm gonna end this session.
Good night.